Viewer contributions make local programming possible on WNIN. Become a member of WNIN with your contribution so we can continue to make this programming available. Visit WNIN.org and click on the donate button.
I want to thank you all for being here today, and I also want to thank Randy Wheeler. He was one of the folks initially who got Voices going way back in the day, in the 80s. So thank you, Randy, for that. It was a difficult time, I know that, but thank you. And also want to just give a shout out to Becky Kasha and John Martin on my board. I swear, I have the best board of directors around. So anyway. We're here today to talk about how to navigate long-term care. Okay. So one of the things that we find, the objectives today are objectives to find out about the long-term care ombudsman role, to bring informed long-term, how to be an informed long-term care consumer, and the rights of those individuals who are living in long-term care homes, and then actually steps to resolving the problems that they may have when they're there. So the history of the Ombudsman program. Ombudsman, which is a really strange word, it is a Swedish word and it means resident representative. So the Ombudsman program was started way back in 1971 with President Nixon. And the long-term care ombudsman has been around for a long time. It is federally mandated, however, it is by no stretch of the imagination fully funded. So just to give you an example, not to be poor me, but for our agency with Alicia, who's 3/4 time, and me, who's full-time, we get federal money and state money in the amount of $22,000. So it's a great idea, it's just that a lot of the legislators didn't get behind fully funding it. So what is an ombudsman? Has anyone ever heard of an ombudsman? Awesome, okay. So we are specially trained, we are certified by the state ombudsman, and we advocate for quality of life and quality of care for our neighbors who are living in long-term care homes. We identify complaints that residents have, and we will go into nursing homes and talk to them. We go into 23 different nursing homes, and we talk to them and we find out what kinds of problems that they may have, and then we will do our very best to try to resolve them. We work with the residents, families, and facility staff, but we are absolutely resident directed. So the Ombudsman program is a good source of information about, one, choosing a long-term care facility, because they are not all alike, the eligibility criteria, because you just can't go and say, I want to go into a nursing home. Not that most people would want to go into a nursing home. And then you also to learn about the rights of the residents. Other services for the elderly, we also can give information about, like SWRCA and more for their waiver services. Indiana Legal Services when it comes to providing information about advanced directives. It's very important, and I'll get on my soapbox for a second. If you do not have advanced directives done, a power of attorney, appointing a healthcare representative, a living will, I strongly encourage you to do that. Because if you don't do that, then who knows who's going to be making those important decisions for you if you can't make them for yourself. The Ombudsman services also are free and confidential, which is one of the best things I think about what we do. So in the beginning, when you're looking for long-term care, you really need to do your homework. You want to look at the type of care that's needed. Maybe it just needs to be someone who is helping administer medications so someone can stay healthy. Maybe it's meals that are needed, or maybe it is activities of daily living such as bathing, dressing, toileting. Maybe it's to help keep a person who has dementia safe from leaving the home or the building. So you need to look at if there's short-term or long-term care needed. If it's someone coming from the hospital that needs some rehabilitation, that may be short-term. If it's somebody who is just keeps declining, then they may need nursing home care from here on out. So do they need nursing home or assisted living care? That's very important. Do they need special services, such as a vent unit or a dementia unit or a secure building? The other thing is, how is this going to be paid for, right? So a lot of people think that Medicare is going to pay for long-term care, for nursing home care. I like that. She's shaking her head no. So, that's a big misnomer. Medicare will pay for skilled care if someone is leaving the hospital and needs rehabilitation and meets all the criteria, but it only pays for a very limited amount of time. So then you have to look at about Medicaid. And if you need Medicaid or not, or is there VA or private pay dollars that can be paid for the care? The other thing is, a lot of people are going from the traditional Medicare to the advantaged care plans. I would caution all of you to be very careful when you do that, because in my experience, and there may be some people selling insurance in here, I don't know, but in my experience, what Alicia and I find is that it does not pay nearly as much for people who are going from the hospital and using Medicare days for rehab. To the extent that we're seeing people get cut off of their therapy when they have Advantage plans. And that basically, and they're not able to go back home. They can't do enough for themselves now. And so it's sentencing them to a life in a nursing home. So just be an informed consumer and look at that very, very carefully. You also need to look at licensure. A lot of people think that some of the places that are senior housing or assisted livings or nursing homes, they absolutely are not. Some assisted living homes are also not licensed by the state. So there's no oversight, none whatsoever. Okay, that's very, very important. So you want to look at if it's assisted living, that is it actually licensed? You need to look if it's licensed for Medicare or Medicaid. And another thing that's important is it dually certified. So if you go into a nursing home and you're in a Medicare only bed and your days end and you don't have private pay dollars to pay, then you have to maybe move to another nursing home or another section in the nursing home that may not be staffed as well. So very important to look at. So we see that a lot, where a person goes into a big fancy facility and then they're told, well, we don't have any Medicaid beds, you're going to have to leave. To me, that's cruel and unusual punishment, actually. But this is information on the State Department of Health website. This is information on the State Department of Health website. And it's just a place to go to gather some information and get reports that the State Department of Health writes. They go in, they're the regulatory agency, and they will cite a facility if the facility's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. So this is very great information. You can also get to it from our website at voicesinc.info. They have the consumer report information about who the administrator, the director of nursing, the ownership, the type of beds, Medicare, Medicaid, how many beds they have, and then the all-important report cards. That's where the State Department of Health gives to. Additional resources, a guide to choosing a nursing home, a 5-star rating. I caution you also, don't just go on the Medicare website for the 5-star rating and rely on that when you're looking for a place for you or your loved one, because a lot of that information is self-reported by the nursing homes, and because of COVID, it's way delayed. How to locate an ombudsman, that's a really important one. And you can also, if you call Voices, I'm happy to give you the ombudsman in Indiana, in the county where you might be looking for a nursing home or you have a loved one, or they're ombudsmen all across the country. So we can find that online too. And another thing on Medicare.gov, you can get a checklist that you can use if you're going in a home that kind of tells you what to look for, and that way then you can maybe narrow it down to a couple places, go in and use that checklist, and then maybe help you make a better informed decision. Another thing to look for, do they have a locked or secured building? That may or may not be important. Are pets allowed? For me, that'd be really important. Do they have a courtyard or someplace nice that you can go and sit out, and enjoy the sun? Is smoking allowed or not? Do they have facility transportation? Because not all nursing homes have their own transportation. And the location, right? Yes. So it's been found that when nursing homes are close to family, friends, and they can visit frequently and pop in any time of day or night, that resident does get better care. So location is important. So some things to the caveats. Quality of care at a facility provided can change very, very quickly. It can change if the nursing home is purchased by another company. It can change if there's a change in administration or director of nursing. So just be aware of that. So what you may be hearing from Aunt Marge about the ABC nursing home being great when her husband was there, that may have changed completely. Don't rely on recommendations from friends and family. If you choose a home that turns out not to be a good fit, you can always move. I think people don't understand that. They think once they get admitted and they're in a place that's where they have to stay, and that's not true. An ombudsman cannot force any facility to accept any resident. Sometimes I wish we could, but we cannot do that. In moving in, try to avoid weekend or evening moves. Even from the hospital, we see people coming from the hospital going to a nursing home on a Friday at 6 o'clock. That is just one of the worst times. The staffing is lower, there's no department heads there. It's just not a good idea. Plan to have family or a friend there for the first couple of days. Especially, people can be confused and not know what's going on, and they need an advocate whenever they're there. So if you can have a family member there, that's a good thing. Be aware that the resident has the right to choose their medical provider. We hear this all the time. You do not have to choose the medical director. No, no, no. If you can go out in the community, you should be allowed to choose your doctor in the community. That is so important, because when we see that, you go to the hospital and you have a doctor at the hospital, and then they change your medication and do all these things that are maybe not in your best interest. And so then you go to the nursing home, and then you have the medical director that they say you have to have, makes another changes. It's not a good idea. So another thing is to help make the room a home for the resident, because that is their home. That's considered their home for the state and federal regulations. Okay. Things to ask for: a written statement or admission agreement. All this paperwork is really important, and a statement of the resident rights and responsibilities. Gosh dang it. So we also have that on our website too. You can find that. Protect personal property. I mean, how many of you have heard of someone in a nursing home getting something stolen or lost? Lost, yes. Oh, sheriff, yes, I bet you do get calls all the time. Yes, yes, very good. We may want to talk later. So what I recommend, and we do this, we deliver a newsletter 3 times a year, and in December, we always put on at least one page that talks about how to protect from loss and theft. So you want to create a paper trail is what you want to do. So you keep the receipts of purchase items, you mark them with the resident's name, the items, and you take photos of the items. With cell phones, it's really easy to do anymore. You make sure the belongings are listed on the inventory sheet. Now, you may go to the nurse's station and they may do the blink, blink, I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, there's an inventory sheet that should be required. And then I say keep a copy of the completed inventory sheet. And you ask for a locked drawer or box in which to keep valuables. You try to avoid keeping any valuables or irreplaceable items in the home. And that goes with, it could be anything that you would be crushed to lose, don't keep it in the nursing home. It may be a wedding ring, it may be a Medal of Honor, it could be anything. So don't take that risk, because it may not be the staff that's taking it. It may be a resident who wanders in the room. It may be that your loved one gets moved from one room to another and it gets lost in the move. I think we've probably all had things lost in the move. So please, that's just, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it can help. The other thing, if you have pictures of clothing, then it's easier for the laundry to find them too. And you have proof. Here's this dress I had. It's got my name in it. It was on the inventory sheet. Here's a picture of it. Please find it. And if they don't find it, one of the things we can do as ombudsman is to get the facility to replace them or to reimburse. So that makes it a lot easier, that process. Okay, let's see. We're doing on time here. Care plans are very important. It is, and I always recommend that residents go to the care plan meetings. For nursing home residents, it should be once a quarter. And for those in assisted living, it's a service plan, and it should be once a year. That is where, if you get the care that you expect in that care plan, the facility is required to provide that care. And if they don't, it's another paper trail. If they don't do it, then when the state comes in, they can say, oh, Michelle's supposed to have help getting her teeth brushed in the morning and in the evening, and they're not doing it. She's got green crud in her teeth. Okay, so then you can hold the facility accountable for things like that. It's much easier. Sorry about that disgusting description. Resident rights are based on federal and state regulations, and here's the link. And if anyone's interested, I could provide some of these links to you all, or to be sent out. A resident has a right to a dignified existence and self-determination, communication with access to people inside and outside the facility. So, when I hear that a wife is not wanting the resident's ex-wife to come and visit, well, it's not up to the wife, it's up to the resident. The resident has the say. Those are fun ones to fight, really. It absolutely is it's up to the resident. To exercise anything granted by the Constitution of the United States, to vote, to enter into contracts, really to do anything. To exercise all the rights and benefits and responsibility. Okay, so to have the right to be free of interference, coercion, discrimination, retaliation, or anything. That's one of the things that residents fear the most, I think, is to be retaliated against. And that's one of the most difficult parts about my job, is when I know that I can help someone and they won't let me because they're too afraid of what'll happen if it gets back that they're the one complaining. I won't share. My services are free. Whatever someone tells me is absolutely confidential. And even though I tell residents and family that, they'll say, yeah, but they'll still find out some way, even if you don't say that it was me complaining. And that's one of the things, I think the most disheartening things about it. To be treated with dignity, respect, courtesy, and consideration. So if we look at resident rights in a nutshell, the resident has the right to be treated with dignity, treated with respect, and to make decisions about their life that are important to them. So we look at dignity, respect, and choice. So here, to make their own choices, to communicate in their native language, to be free from abuse, neglect, and exploitation, to live in a safe, decent, and clean conditions. You would think that all the homes have safe, decent, and clean conditions, and they absolutely do not. To receive all care necessary, that goes without saying. To be free from physical and chemical restraints. A bed rail can be considered a physical restraint. Sometimes families want a bed rail put up, and the facility can't do it. But if the family will call me, we can look at it. It may be a restraint, it may not be a restraint. You have to look at each individual situation as what needs to be looked at, specifically to that resident. To receive visitors, like I said. So the ex-wife, he wants to see his ex-wife. She gets to come and visit. To privacy, to participate in activities, to receive unopened mail, all this, dignity, respect, choice. To manage personal and financial affairs, to access their money at the facility and have an accounting of what might be in their resident trust account there. To access their records and to receive copies within 2 business days. None of this, corporate has to approve it first. No. If they have to approve it, then you better make sure that they've approved it in less than 2 business days, because the resident should get records within 2 business days. To be fully informed of everything, their medical condition. To refuse medical treatment. All right, how many of you ever refuse what the doctor says you should be doing?
Does exercise count?
Exercise? Yeah. So a diabetic may want that piece of chocolate cake. Does that diabetic get that piece of chocolate cake? Yes, absolutely. And I like to say, if you tell me I can't have that piece of chocolate cake, I'm going to say, you better bring me 2 pieces of chocolate cake with ice cream and chocolate sauce and sprinkles and whipped cream. Because when you tell me no, no one likes to be told no. That creates so many problems. When you're told no, then you really want to dig in and fight for what you want. So anyway, I digress. To keep and use personal possessions. To not be transferred or evicted. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think I'm running out of time here. This is a biggie. A lot of times nursing homes will say, I'm sorry, we just can't take care of Becky. She's just cussing all the time and throwing her milk across the room, and she's just wreaking havoc with us, and we just cannot have her here anymore. No, you can. You accepted her. This is her home. You agree to meet her needs, so meet her needs. It's like, get at the root cause of why Becky's doing that. Is it because you're telling her she can't have chocolate cake? Maybe, okay, but figure it out. You can't just kick somebody out of their home. It would be equivalent to someone coming in your home and saying, I'm sorry, but you're not a very good neighbor anymore, and so we're gonna pack your belongings in trash bags and we're gonna move you down the street with a stranger. That's basically what it is. So, I'm sorry, my soapbox, I get passionate about this stuff. So, there are only specific reasons that a person can be evicted. And so, I don't think we need to go through all this. So, be an empowered advocate. Be an empowered advocate or be an empowered resident. Know resident rights. Keep a journal with who, what, when, where. Because residents will say, well, it was last week and somebody came in my room and they were rummaging through my closet and now my jean jacket's missing. Well, keep a record of that. When was it? Who was it? What did they look like? And report it right away, because then it's much easier to have it investigated and get to the problem of what's happening. So keep calm if possible. No one, probably the sheriff knows this. If I start going off on a sheriff, he's probably not going to be very happy with me or listen to much what I say. But if I'm calm and I have a good argument, then it's easier to get resolved what it is you're trying to get resolved. Remember, residents have the right to make what others feel is a bad decision. So, I'm sure my husband thinks I make bad decisions every other day, but it's my right. And I'm not even in a nursing home, so. Start with the appropriate department head. If it's laundry, go to the laundry department. If it's food, go to the dietary department. If you don't get any results, go to the administrator. Ask for a care plan meeting. So a care plan meeting, all of the disciplines sit down with the resident representative, and talk about what's going on and what the problems are, and then work to get them resolved. Speak to the administrator. Contact the local ombudsman. File a complaint with the regulatory agency here, the Indiana Department of Health. Okay, words of wisdom. Trust your instincts. Absolutely trust your instincts. If something doesn't seem right, it probably isn't right. And that's where you can always call the ombudsman and just say, hey, this is going on. Can they really do this? Or they're saying this. Is that right? Trust them. Don't believe everything the facility and medical staff tell you. Okay? Absolutely not. One of those things is they may promise a private room for your loved one. They can't keep that promise. They absolutely can't. They say a lot of things to get people in the door and moved in. There are formal appeals in many situations. So if a person's Medicare days are ending, they get a notice of Medicare non-coverage, that's appealable. They get evicted, that's appealable. That's one of the things we do is we can represent residents at administrative hearings when they want us, and we can fight for them to stay in that facility. And tooting my own horn, we win almost every single time, unless it's for non-payment. That's a toughie. When in doubt, contact your ombudsman. How to contact voices. I have to throw this out that Reuter Family Foundation is a partner with us, and we also get money through the Department of Metropolitan Development. Moving on. Okay, so just kind of a little bit of there's some cards on your table and just some opportunities. If anyone would like to sponsor, volunteer, support us, be a vendor at our walkthrough booth, it's a lot of fun. We have over 500 people walk through the booths and things at Washington Square Mall. It's a huge turnout, So if there's cards on the table, if you would like to help sponsor that, then you can use the card, talk to Becky down here at the front. She helps with that. So, I'm going the wrong way now. Okay, additional opportunities. This is very exciting because we have a new event in this community. It's called Baking Spirits Bright, and it's a cookie exchange. And we also are looking for sponsors and donors and vendors. And we are so excited about this because, again, it's unlike anything that's been here. This is some pictures of what has been done in another part of the country. So it's a huge opportunity. So just think about it if you would like to help support voices. And we are a voice for those living in local long-term care homes. And we are their voice. That's what we do. So I know it's a lot of information. I went over. I'm sorry. It was a tough beginning, technology, so.
I believe we have time for questions.
Very good, thank you so much. So good to see how this organization has developed over time and the things you're accomplishing with you and Becky, I know it's going to be on track going forward.
Mm-hmm.
One question would be, what are the specific powers and limitations of the ombudsman?
Well, we are resident directed, so first we need to have the residents' permission, and if they're not capable of giving permission, then we would need to have their permission of their legal representative. So we can't cite a facility, we can't find a facility, but we do have knowledge, and knowledge can go a long way. So when I can pull out the regulation and I can say, look, as a facility, you're supposed to protect the belongings of the resident, and you did not protect them because you allowed someone to come and take their things or their things to be ruined in laundry. I mean, I've had where, a lavender dress came back and it had bleach spots all over it. Well, that was the facility's fault. That wasn't the resident fault. So we get those things, we get them replaced. Now, we can push a lot of times, and if they still say no, then we can refer to the State Department of Health, and then it's in their hands.
Hi, thanks so much for what you do in your advocacy. And I was late, so if you said this, I'm so sorry if you already answered these questions. So I think I heard you say there's only 2 of you on staff, is that correct? And
yes.
What is your jurisdiction? Like, where do you serve? What's your...
We serve Vanderburgh County, okay. And there are 23 homes in Vanderburgh County. Alicia really focuses on assisted living, and I focus more on the nursing homes. So she's like 2/3 to 3/4 time, and then I'm full-time. But we also have the agency that we have, to spend time helping keep above board, so.
Wow, that's amazing,
Yeah.
thank you.
We do have, I say, again, we have the best board of directors ever, yeah.
I had no idea that this kind of a service was available in the world until I saw this for Rotary. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
You're welcome.
Just from personal experience, the laundry, the clothes, at every single facility, it looks to me like they throw everybody's stuff in the laundry and then somebody looks at them and thinks, this might fit you, this might fit you, this might fit you. It doesn't matter if there's names on it. It doesn't matter if it's nice or not nice. I mean, I was buying my uncle's clothes at the Dollar General, and he just couldn't get his clothes back. I mean, I was doing it that way because I didn't
Yeah.
want to care. I don't know what would have happened if I wasn't up there complaining. I guess he would have laid in bed naked.
Well, if he wanted to, that's okay, but.
He might have,
Yeah.
but I don't, that has to be just a nonstop problem.
It is.
And it's probably a big challenge. I mean, how do you get enough employees to do the laundry at a nursing home? That's gotta be tough.
Well, that's on to the facility to do it. A lot of times they'll send out bedding and things like that to have it done outside of the facility, but the clothes will be done in the facility. But I never get so many calls about missing items as I do after Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Christmas. So you can think what you may about that. So, yeah. And it's usually things like jeans and sweatshirts and T-shirts and sweatpants and things like that that are turn up missing, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
How's your relationship with the individual service providers? Is it collaborative or oftentimes contentious?
It depends. I had an administrator following me down the hall one time when the building was going to close suddenly, that they're not supposed to do, and I had a wheelie cart with information for residents, and he kept kicking it as I went down the hall. So, and then I have other facilities that will call me and say, hey, we just want to make sure we're not violating any of the residents' rights. This is the situation. Can you help me? And so it really just depends. It depends.
Tell us about nanny cams.
Nanny cams. Okay. I love nanny cams. There is no law in Indiana that says you cannot have a camera in a nursing home. Okay. The caveat to that is that if you have a loved one there and they have their own room, then and you want to put a camera in there, I would say go for it. They cannot kick somebody out for having a camera in the room. So it's just, but facilities will say, well, it's against our policy. Well, it's not against the law. It's not against the law. And it's my mom's home. My mom should have the right to have what she wants in her home as long as it's not infringing on anybody else's rights. And so, I love those because I've had where someone's like, mom is she's getting bruises and I just can't figure out where they're from and they're kind of poo-pooing whatever. They don't care about it. And I'm like, and we thought about putting a nanny cam in there. I'm like, hey, try it. I mean, I will argue to the end that she should have a right to do that. Maybe not, maybe someplace where it's not going to see residents walking down the hall because that's an invasion of the residents' privacy. And not seeing mom, in her birthday suit, but, there's other ways to go about doing that. So sometimes a picture says 1,000 words, so, yeah.
Question for you. Thanks for talking to us today. It's a really important area, and I would contend that most of us will face advising a family member what to do when they need a long-term care facility. You mentioned a lot of your role seems to be once a resident's in a facility, and you made a comment about the importance of picking a facility, the right philosophy, perhaps whether they're licensed or not, and also commented that don't rely on family and friends. But for some of us that have ventured in that area, always know where to start.
Right.
So I'm curious as far as being proactive to help guide people to the right facility, can you talk about how you approach that and if that's part of your role?
That's part of my role. We as ombudsman, we cannot recommend a facility, but we can give information that you could help base your decision on. The first thing we say is don't be taken in by the beauty of the building, because the artwork on the walls and all the beautifulness, the flooring and all that and furniture, that does not take care of those folks. So that's number one. We go into all of them, and we go quarterly at least. So we know what we see when we go in there. We can get the reports from the State Department of Health. Usually what we say is, start with what part of town that is most convenient for most of the family and friends that they can stop in. And then, we can talk about different things. What's important? Is it important having a pet? Is it important, like I said, to have a courtyard, to have transportation? I love talking to people beforehand so that their loved one can get in a place that really is going to feel more like home, and they're going to get better care, hopefully. So, but that's something we can do, yeah. If people will call us, we can get that information.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And like many who've spoken or asked questions already, I wasn't familiar with Voices and your services, so I'm really glad that I'm made aware. As you were speaking, I was just so flabbergasted by sort of the challenges that are the residents of the long-term facilities have to face. And I just wonder about legislation or guardrails. Just it sounds a little bit, it sounds like a mess, and I just wonder.
That's a very good way to put it, yeah.
How can we protect our loved ones, or, what are the guardrails in place?
Well, there are resident rights, but the challenge is getting them enforced. And there was a recent legislation, you'll find this shocking, I believe. There is no staff to resident ratio in long-term care. So there's nothing that says you need to have X number of staff for X number of residents, right? That's just mind-boggling. It's just that you only have to have enough staff to meet the needs of the residents. That's very, very, very subjective. I never see the state cite for lack of staff, really. Recently, the Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care in DC had worked really, really hard to get a staff to resident ratio. And in this big, beautiful bill, it was cut out. Cut out to the point that, if I get this right, it cannot even be brought up again until 2036 or something ridiculous like that. So, yeah.
Can we find who cut it out?
Can what?
Can we find out who cut it out?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just know that we were so excited, finally, after all these years, because I've been an ombudsman for 25 years. And finally, it was like, we're winning. And it was like, wah, wah, wah. So, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say on that before I start crying.
In Vanderburgh County, how many complaints, I don't know if you track it, but how many complaints do you file or receive in a year?
Oh, you're a numbers guy, aren't you? I'm not. I can't tell you that. I know that anything that I would say, I just would be pulling it out of the air. I just know that we're really busy. And I've got stuff sitting on my desk right now that needs to be taken care of. And that's why Alicia's not here, because, she's needed elsewhere. She was planning on being here today. But some cases take a lot of time, such as if somebody's getting kicked out. We have to go and we have to talk with the resident, the family, investigate, get copies of records. We have to mark exhibits. We have to get them sent to the administrative law judge, communication back and forth. And then we have to have our plan when we sit down at the hearing on how we're going to explain that, they should not be allowed to kick this person out. So that takes a lot of time. And then it could be something as like, the call lights are not, or that's not always an easy one. The call lights are not getting answered. So, or water's not getting passed. I swear, I don't understand why water cannot get passed on every shift anymore. I mean, people need to be hydrated. We all have water in front of us. It's like if you don't get fully hydrated, then you can get a urinary tract infection. You can talk a little bit out of your head, and a lot of problems can happen because of that. So, but that's one of the big things is staff not passing water on every shift. That's a tough one. So it used to be an easy one. Food that's cold, that's an easier one to fix. It may take talking to the dietary manager and the administrator and then making a follow-up visit and talking with residents and making sure that everything's okay. So it just really depends on the situation, on whether it's an quick, easier fix or whether it's something that takes a lot of hours or days.
Michelle, we have a few more questions for you.
Okay, yeah.
I hear your passion and I love it, so thank you. Again, I'm thinking it's such a unique and needed service. I'm thinking about funding. So I heard you say you're a federally mandated program, right? But it's not fully federally funded.
No.
So I'm having a hard time understanding that. And then the CDBG funds, I know those are at risk too. So what are your thoughts around that, and how can we come around and support?
I don't like it. But I think that's why, I threw out with our fundraisers that we have, the Walk-Through Boo, the cards that are on the table, or our Baking Spirits Bright fundraiser that's coming up. We take donations. We're always looking for grant opportunities, although unfortunately, there's not a lot of money out there for elders. There, not to, diss on children. There's a lot of money out there for children and education. But I'd like to see some of that be spread around a little bit because our elders, especially in nursing homes, are extremely vulnerable. But what we do is we do get donations. We do now have 2 fundraisers a year, and then we get the money from the CDBG, and then we get the federal and state money. So, yeah, like I said, my board works very hard to make sure that we can pay our bills.
Okay. So I just wanted to comment. It's hard not to mention that a lot of what you do is set up to be an advocate and sometimes to go after situations. But I guess I just wanted to comment that just from personal experience, there are some really good people in long-term care facilities, and we're fortunate to have them.
Oh, yes.
I'm not saying you're not portraying that, but it's just a really tough job, and so. I just want to commend those that do that tough work. You mentioned shortness of staff, and that's something I've seen. And but those that are there, it's not their decision, not their ability to change that. It's just their ability to serve as many people as they can. So not necessarily a question, but just a comment. Certainly welcome to comment on it. But I feel I guess compelled to talk about that a bit.
And thank you for that, because I do get a little down on nursing homes, but there are some. And families will tell me that they have some very, very dedicated, great staff that care. I think they get burnt out a lot of times because they may be working really hard and then they see their coworkers not doing anything. And what I see is usually not always the bad things, but I went up to the nurse's station. This lady was calling out. She said, "Help me, help me, help me." And I go in and I'm like, what do you need? I introduce myself, knock on the door. What is it that you need? And she said, "I want to get up in my chair." And I said, "Okay, can I go tell the staff that?" I go up to the nurse's station. There's a nurse and 2 aides sitting there. And I introduce myself. I tell them who I am, which usually, puts a little fear in people. And I said, "Well, so-and-so would like to get up." "Well, she'll just get up and then want to go back down." I said, "Well, the thing is that she wants to get up right now." And so, so anyway, they get up and they kind of walk away, and I go down the hall and I'm doing some other stuff, and I come back and she's still in bed hollering, "Help me, help me, help me." This is like 20 minutes later. I go to the nurse's station. These 3 people are still sitting there at the nurse's station. I'm like, that's kind of what I see. You know, I think that there are some really, really good people, and I absolutely believe that the people that work in nursing homes should get paid more. I think they should get respected more by the corporation, by whoever pays the bills. I can't fix that, though. I really can't. I wish I had a magic wand. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then thank you, Michelle.
I did mention it.
I'm just curious about how much availability for elder care facilities there are here in Evansville versus demand. Do you find people have to go outside of Vanderburgh County to find a place, or?
Not at all. I mean, they may want to go outside of Vanderburgh County if they want to find, you know, if they can't get into one here that's a good one, and they may go outside. You know, COVID just, wow. There were some facilities in town that had a waiting list before COVID, and that's not the case anymore. There are a lot of places who will have a floor, a wing, a hall, whatever, closed down because they don't have enough residents. And I can't, for the life of me, understand how they're still open, really, because I thought, oh, after COVID, there were going to be places closing down, but that has not happened. So no, there's not a shortage of beds at all. So.
Michelle, thank you so much for your time. Maybe you'll stick around for the few extra questions.
Sure,
Thank
I'd
you so
love
much.
to. I'd love to. So if anyone's wanting to donate, on the card there is a QR code. I feel really sleazy asking this, but anyway, if you're wanting to donate or help us out at all, there's a QR code on the things on the table. So, thank you for your attention, and I'm so sorry I've gone way over. So, but I'm happy to talk to anybody if they want to stay behind. Familiarize myself.